Hey there, cultivator. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about behavioral questions. The reason being is because these types of questions will come up in any interview that you go on, and also because as hiring managers and recruiters are trained to deliver these questions, they're also trained to listen out for a very special four-step framework to every single question they ask. So without further ado, let's dive into one, knowing how to identify and spot these behavioral types of questions. And then two, also knowing the four-step framework to satisfy the interviewer. Stick around till the very end because I'm also going to give you access to 25 of the most common behavioral questions that you can anticipate showing up at least once or twice throughout your interview process. Before we dive in, let me just explain what a behavioral question is to begin with. So behavioral questions are really aimed at asking about a past behavior or experience because there's a saying that goes, your past experience is an indicator or predictor of your future experience and the way that you handle certain things. So in these types of questions, employers are really wanting to get a sense of your logic, your personality, your abilities, and just the way that you communicated or handled a certain situation. You can identify the behavioral questions because they usually start off with something like, tell me about a time, or how did you handle, or share an example of. So again, these are all questions that are asking about something that happened in the past. Knowing this, once you identify that, there's a question that's asking me about the past, you can then go into the four-step formula that all of these different recruiters and hiring managers are trained to listen for. And that is STAR. You may have heard of this before. It stands for situation, task, action, and result. So let's dive into an example of a behavioral question and answer so that you can start to have the framework to develop your own answers anytime a question is asked to you. Let's imagine for a moment that you're in the interview and your interviewer asks you, tell me about a time that you fell short of a goal. So in this particular case, you're now going to follow the framework of explain the situation where I fell short of the goal. What were the tasks and the actions that I took to remedy that? Or what did I do to overcome that? And then what was the ultimate positive result that stemmed out of my tasks and actions that I took? So let's break this down into really simple steps, one by one. Starting with situation, I'm going to share with a few sentences, just a few, how this situation came about, or really paint the picture for my audience. So this might sound like, I would consider myself to be a very goal-oriented person, so when I don't meet a goal I set out to achieve, it's a learning opportunity for me. Just this last quarter, we had a friendly competition at work to set a new sales record as a team. The numbers came in and we learned that we fell short by 10%. Okay, so as you can see, the situation is a really high-level overview of what happened. You don't need to go into all of the little itty-bitty details. You're just painting what is relevant to help understand this context. Now it's time to move into the task and the action. I usually like to clump the task and the action together because they're quite similar, but ultimately you want to know what are the steps that you took, what did you specifically do in this specific situation. So in this example, I might share, I like to consider myself to be an analytical and motivating leader. I took the initiative of analyzing where our sales came in and gathered a meeting with the top performers to gain insights into what really worked well for them. Now that we have the specific actions that we took based on this situation, it's time to paint the ultimate result that was yielded because of these actions. So many people miss out on the result, which happens to be the most important part. Usually when people answer this out of the hundreds of people I've interviewed, I've noticed that they really paint the situation and the task and the action, but they leave out the ultimate result. So again, we're going to land on a big positive that yields that this was a really great learning opportunity and or what came out of those specific actions. So this might sound like, with this new information, we all agreed to continue the competition in this new quarter and we're measuring our weekly progress. The knowledge sharing in our last meeting was so powerful, we decided to have a weekly meeting to share our weekly tips with the entire team. This has helped us all to become motivated and inspired, and already this quarter we're seeing a huge increase in sales compared to this time in the last quarter. We are very optimistic that we will achieve our goals and set a new company record. Not reaching my goals has taught me that there's always room for improvement, and it's really up to us to seize the opportunities. Okay, so as you can see from that star example, I really painted the situation. I talked about the specific tasks and actions, and I also demonstrated my positive, optimistic personality despite not meeting a goal to set out with. Right? What employer doesn't want somebody who's optimistic on their team? So your goal is to really take a behavioral question, really recognize and become aware of, okay, this is a behavioral question. Now, what is the framework of the star that I can share in my answer to respond in the most concise way, but yet powerful way, ultimately landing on that positive result? In closing, behavioral questions can be quite simple to answer as long as you can identify it and then follow the framework. Even if you don't have the answer prepared for that specific question, you can still think on your feet and just follow that 4-step process. Star. In the description box down below, don't forget to sign up for the free resource library because you'll get access to the 25 most common behavioral questions list, as well as a ton of other resources to help you with your job search. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and until then, I can't wait to see you continue to cultivate your life and your career. Oh, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when I release this video next week. And until then, I'll see you guys later.